So hi again. We're going to be doing the second part of activity 3.2 with this video. And it says for part 2, how is air moving through straws analogous to charge moving through a filament? So we're using the air analogy again. We're thinking of charge as being a little bit like air moving through tubes. It says obtain a coffee straw. Here's our coffee straw. A soda straw. Here's the soda straw. Looks like that. And a paper towel tube, which I happen to have here as well. You can see it looks a little like that. And follow the instructions below. So instructions: take a deep breath and measure the time it takes to exhale through the soda straw. Now take a second, same deep breath, and using the same effort, in other words, pushing with your lungs the same way, not trying to push harder because it's a different straw. Using the same effort, completely exhale through the thinner coffee straw. So I'm going to be breathing through the straws. And just to show you, we're going to be using straws first anyway, so I'll just show you these. The coffee straw and the soda straw, I cut them so they're the same length, because what we're really testing here is how breathing through them is different because of their widths. The coffee straw is very thin, and the soda straw is quite thicker. I mean, it's about, I don't know, like 5 times thicker. And so I'm going to exhale through all these. I'm going to take the same deep breath, and then I'm going to exhale through each straw. And I'll kind of give you a hand motion when you can start the timer and stop the timer, okay? But honestly, from the timestamp on the video, you might be able to get a good enough reading for what we're going to do with it. All right. So take a deep breath and measure the time it takes to exhale through the soda straw. Ready? That's time. So that was my deep breath, exhaling through the soda straw. I'm going to use that same force, like a same deep breath. So I'm taking the same amount of air into my lungs, and I'm going to push just as hard. I'm not going to try to push harder just because it's a skinnier straw. And we'll see how much time it takes for me to exhale through the skinnier straw. Ready? Time. Oh, it takes more time. I think it's pretty obvious then, right? It took a lot more time for me to exhale air through the skinnier straw. And I wasn't trying to push harder. I guess I could have pushed harder with my lungs to make it take less time, but the point here is that you're trying to exhale the same hardness. Like we're trying to replicate the idea that the lungs are kind of like a battery that push charge around. Instead of charge, though, it's air. So number 1 asks you to compare the amount of time it takes you to completely discharge your lungs, like your lungs are holding charge and you're discharging through one of these, by exhaling through each straw type. So you can answer number 1 now. You can compare the amount of time it takes to discharge your lungs through either a skinny straw or a thicker straw. And which one of these is kind of like a long bulb and which one of these is kind of like the round bulb? Because you've seen the pictures for that in the first part. Which one of these is more round bulb? Which one of these is more long bulb? Number 2. Number 2 says, do you exhale more air through either straw? And explain your reasoning. So here's where you want to think about, I took the same deep breath each time I was exhaling. So did I exhale more air through one straw than the other in the whole time it took to discharge my lungs? For number 3, it says repeat the previous actions, but blow onto the back of your hand. How does the speed of the air particles that strike your hand when using the soda straw compare to the speed of the air particles when using the coffee straw? So I'm going to do it again. And instead of just exhaling out here, I'm going to exhale into the back of my hand, and I'll tell you, I guess, what it feels like. What I'm feeling for isn't how much air. It's like I'm trying to feel like how fast is the air moving when it hits my hands. Again, I have to use the exact same breath each time, or else we're not really doing an apples to apples comparison. So starting with the coffee straw, hand, Okay, it feels like a gentle breeze, as one might imagine. Quite a bit of air hitting my hand because it's a wider straw. I can kind of feel it over most of my hand. And I'm gonna go with the coffee straw now, okay? Which I just dropped. I'm not editing that out though. Hi, I'm back. Ready? 1, 2, 3. So I'm not going to exhale all the air out because I can feel it pretty well. Actually, what it feels like is just there's the same speed. Like it feels like the air molecules are hitting my hand in the same way. It's just that there's less of them. All right. If the air molecules moving, it feels the same. It's just that it's less. Like with the thicker straw, I felt the air over a big part of my hand, but with the coffee straw, it felt the same just over a smaller part of my hand. So it didn't feel like the air is moving any faster with either straw. It felt pretty much the same. So for number 4, it says the same amount of air is being discharged from your lungs through both the coffee straw and the soda straw. That's like a spoiler, I suppose. That was kind of what number 2 was asking about. So where's your answer for number 2? What does this tell you about the number of particles striking the back of your hand during each second for the coffee straw compared with the soda straw? So for each second, what number 4 is really asking, for each second, comparing the number of air particles that are going to hit your hand. Are more particles hitting your hand if you exhale through the thicker straw? Or are more particles going to be hitting your hand if you exhale through the coffee straw? Or is it the same number of particles? And again, not for the whole time, but what does it tell you about the number of particles striking the back of your hand during each second? So we know already that the same amount of air is being exhaled onto your hand. But in 1 second is the same number of air molecules hitting your hand through both straws. Number 5 says, now take the paper towel tube, which I've also cut to be the same length as all these other ones, by the way, because science. Now take the paper towel tube, and with the same effort from your lungs, exhale a full breath of air. How does the width of the tube affect the time it takes to inhale? Are you ready? Done. That didn't take long, did it? Exhaling through the paper towel tube definitely makes the time a lot shorter than even the soda straw compared with the coffee straw. And you can start to see a pattern here probably. Like how does the width of these things, and you can kind of see the widths here, how do their widths affect the amount of time it takes to discharge my lungs? Number 6 says, how does the width of the tube affect the current, the flow rate of air from your lungs? Well, there you go. You're going to be answering that based off of all the observations that you've seen now. Remember, current flow rate is how much stuff is moving every second. 7, compare the time it takes to charge your lungs by inhaling through the straw, the stir, and the paper towel tube. So this is like the backwards process. If we think about my lungs almost like a capacitor then, if I'm charging them by bringing air in, does it affect the time? And I'll start with the paper towel tube and then work my way down. Ready? Done. Okay. Done. And done. Yeah, so it's pretty different, right? It's kind of like the exhaling. It's the same kind of pattern that you're seeing. So how much longer does it take to charge my lungs through something like this? And does that agree with what we've seen now with capacitor charging times with long bulbs, round bulbs? The charging times were different for those, and the charging times are different. So why were they different? Think about the widths of the straws and how it relates to what's happening inside of the bulbs, how the wire, the filament looks inside of the bulbs. So the last question says, considering your answers in the preceding 8 questions, how would you answer the focus question? How is air moving through straws analogous to charge moving through filaments? So you're going to answer the focus question now as best you can. That's like your conclusion for this activity. And then we'll, as a class, discuss what the consensus should look like. That's it. Thank you very much. Ciao.